Mercedes is one of the teams that struggled a lot with the aerodynamic performance of its car, as well as with the equal distribution of its weight. This is one of the reasons why Mercedes has heavily developed their car this year, as they brought big upgrade packages to Silverstone and Miami, and they plan to do so in Austin. Keep in mind that this is the worst season that Mercedes has experienced since 2011, when the team had a winless season. On top of that, Hamilton is facing his first winless season, which would be a huge blow to his legacy. The new aerodynamic rules that were implemented in 2022 saw Mercedes falling behind its competition, which is why they need to react quickly, not just for the remainder of this season, but for the 2023 one too. So, struggling with the car being overweight and the aerodynamical phenomenon of porpoising, what are the upgrades that Mercedes is bringing to Austin? What are their expectations out of this upgrade package? Let's find out. During the 2022 season, we were able to witness how the weight of the car really affected the performance due to the new technical regulations and the ground floor seeing the daylight yet again after being implemented for the first time in 1979 with Mario Andretti's title-winning Lotus 79. However, with the ground effect being implemented yet again, the front and rear wings play a minor part in order to gain downforce, as the main source of generating downforce is through the floor. With the enlarged tires and the narrower chassis, the F1 cars have gained a massive amount of weight, as the minimum weight is now 798 kilograms. Almost every team has had a hard time nearing this limit, including Mercedes, which is why most of its upgrades were towards reducing its weight. But why is every team pushing towards making their cars lighter? It goes without saying that the lighter the car is, the better the performance that comes out of it. When a car is heavier, it means that it understeers more. There is less front tire rotation, and it's heavier on the tire degradation, as it uses much more rubber in order to achieve high grip levels and better traction. The weight itself is an even bigger problem when the weight distribution is not right, which was one of the main issues with Red Bull. According to Helmut Marko, when the RB18 was 10 kilograms overweight, shedding these kilograms would mean that the car would gain 0.3 of a second in performance. This is partly due to minimizing the excessive weight, but also because the weight distribution would be different. The Ferrari car has been very close to the weight minimum, and that is why we've seen a very dominant performance from the F175 in the first couple of races. However, with other teams starting to understand the problem, Mercedes being one of them, Ferrari started to drop out and to suffer from its own mistakes. Now let's get back to Mercedes and what they are planning for Austin, as well as why this upgrade is very important for the upcoming season. According to Andrew Shovlin, the trackside engineer of Mercedes F1, the final aerodynamic package that is going to be introduced in Austin is going to boost the performance of the W13 by shedding some weight off of it. According to information provided to the media by Formula1A.Uno, Mercedes will make minor changes to the front wing and floor. In addition to this, they will introduce upgrades that will provide a lot of weight loss, meaning that the lighter parts should bring a 5-kilogram reduction. This would bring the W13 closer to the 798 kilogram limit, which should see improvements in the likes of 1/10 per second. What is even more interesting is the fact that Mercedes won't use new parts, but will use old parts. Due to the budget cap, the spending in 2022 has been heavily reduced, which is why the teams have to be as innovative as possible. As a result, the Brackley-based team's weight loss upgrades will largely consist of parts that were already available to them earlier this season. If these solutions prove to work, then Mercedes will build completely new components next season. Shovlin spoke with Motorsport.com about the upgrades and their expectations, adding, "It's our final step of aero development, and that will hopefully give us a bit more performance. But importantly, with every step, we are learning more and more, and that learning we can carry into next year. Also, we have taken some weight out of components that will hopefully get the car closer to the weight limit. It's very difficult for us to predict where we are going to be. In Singapore, Lewis was awfully close to pole position, yet in Suzuka, both cars had a big gap to the front. Now, our race pace has been reasonably strong. If we can make a step, hopefully we can get into the fight with the Ferraris and the Red Bulls, but qualifying for us is the really difficult one to predict at the moment. But as I said, a lot of it is about learning, and we are certainly going to give it our best shot in the final 4 races." But what does Wolff have to say when it comes to Mercedes upgrades in Austin? According to him, not only will the finishing positions be very hard to predict, but he thinks that they won't drastically help the W13 in the fight with Ferrari and Red Bull. Mercedes is currently 67 points behind Ferrari for the P2 spot in the Constructors' Championship. And while everything is open until the last race of the season, according to Wolff, it's unlikely that we'll see a massive improvement in the W13's performance. Our final update package of the year will be brought to Austin. It won't drastically change our fortunes, but we are hopeful it will bring us a step forward and closer to the front runners. Austin is a great city we all love visiting. The Circuit of the Americas is a challenging track that often produces great racing, so we are excited to be back this year and hopefully put on a great show for the fans. Wolff also spoke about the previous two races that were really challenging for Mercedes, in Singapore and in Suzuka, saying that after them, the battle with Ferrari became even harder and more challenging. The doubleheader in Singapore and Japan was a frustrating one for the team, as we didn't put ourselves in the clean air we needed to maximize the race pace of the car. We want to end this season strongly, and the results of the last two races only make us more determined to do so. We need to use the limited track time available to make strides forward for this season and generate as much learning as we can in the development race for 2023. Those two aims are one and the same. What is the learning curve that Wolff is talking about? According to him and Russell, the W13 version of the car was ideal for learning how the 2022 technical regulations operate. When it became clear that this version of the car was the worst to ever leave Mercedes production lines, the team decided to make the best of the situation and learn from their own mistakes. For the next version of the car, which would be the W14, we might see a brand new version that would be totally rebranded from what we're used to seeing on the W13. According to reports, the possibility of chunky side pods being mounted to the W14 is a real one, as Mercedes learned the hard way that the no-pod side pod design doesn't work for them. George Russell spoke about the direction the team has taken when it comes to developing the car for the 2023 season, adding, "I'm confident that the direction we need to take is the correct one. We have a philosophy that we're going to be trying to adopt in our development, and I'm very confident that is the correct one. But equally, it doesn't mean that we can necessarily achieve it. We have a target, and that is a massive positive in itself. As I said, we have a clear target we're trying to chase. Now, can we achieve that? I have every confidence that we can. We obviously don't know how much the other rivals are going to improve over this winter, but I definitely have confidence that we will have a more complete car across the circuit ranges into 2023. What is even more interesting is that Russell has hinted at the brand new version of Mercedes, but was very cautious with his words, as he didn't want to say more than he should in order to stay ahead of his competition. I think nothing is off the table. For sure, we've got a pretty unique design with the side pods. It's not off the cards that we will continue with that design, but it is equally not off the cards that we will completely change philosophy. But ultimately, whether we have the wide side pods or the narrow side pods, that isn't the performance differentiator. There is more to it. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's something that we worked very hard on to understand and hopefully will give us an advantage into next year. So I don't want to say anything that will potentially benefit our rivals. But at the end of the day, every single car is different. I have to say, I've mentioned a couple of times this year that I feel like we've understood our car and we're on the right track, but we have been set back with a couple of oddities that we weren't expecting. With that being said, what do you think about Mercedes and the remainder of the 2022 season? Do you think that they have a chance of winning at least one race and then building a competitive car for the 2023 season? Let us know in the comments below.